It's that time again. It's the Burky and the Badger Board Game Babble Show. It's going to get wild. It's going to get wacky. It might even get a little zany. We're going to talk about board games and the board game industry. And, you know, we might talk about anything else we want to talk about.
Hey, hey, hey!
Big hug.
We got a big hug and happy hands.
Better than happy mouth. Hello!
Hey, hey, hey! It's the Burky and the Badger Board Game Babble Show. And it's been like a while since we've gotten together. And we're sorry about that, but it's been like crazy busy going to conventions and doing music and doing building a house and fixing his house or making his house a mansion. I don't know what he was doing, but we're going to talk about some of ththose things. But we're so glad you're here to be with us.
Yeah, welcome to the show. This is episode 92.
92.
I can't remember what it's called. Foundations and Conventions.
Foundations of conventions. Conventions of foundations. Foundations of
trees.
Of Rome.
Of throne trip.
Rome. Romans, senators, lend me your ears.
Et tu, Brute.
We're already going off the rails and we haven't even started.
Yeah. That's what happens when we don't write a script. Bad Barry.
Barry, this has always been a fly by the seat of our pants operation. Everybody knows that. That's why nobody listens.
Oh, right. Okay. There you go. That's it. I don't need to write any more scripts in future. Then.
Yeah. Well, from now on, we won't. We'll just. No, it's been great. There's been a lot going on in Babblot since we last talked. And Barry, what have you been up to?
What have I been up to? I've been recovering from an ear problem.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I basically, our house has been refurbished. We had a conservatory. It's been destroyed because it was leaky, terrible, and now it's been rebuilt. And during the rebuilding, I moved the hose pipe, which is attached to the wall. And to do this, I needed to drill 4 holes into the wall to attach this, one of those big plastic protected hose pipes that you can pull out and retract. It's a retractable one. That's the word.
Through the concrete wall, right?
Yeah. And I blew my ears out. So I have now tinnitus in my ears. So if nobody talks.
I get that.
Yeah, it's quite loud and quite distracting for me. It was very loud and distracting for me at the beginning. And also I had, I can't think what it's called, hyper something. My ears were hypersensitive and any particular noises would cause great pain in my head. Not nice. And as you can see, I've got my headphones on. It's at a low level. And even when Burky's talking or laughing or screaming or crying, it won't hurt my ears anymore. So I am gradually getting better. So that's part of the reason we haven't been here. And again, as Burky has said, he's been at conventions and being busy that way.
I thought for a second there I was going to have to bring it way down again and talk in whispers and go over to the mic and say, "Hi, Barry. How are you, Barry?"
Nighttime television. Welcome to the Nighttime channel. We're going to talk nighttime board games that you can play after midnight. Night sounds. You want some night sounds? Here's some night sounds. This is like that I listen to every night.
That sounds like tinnitus to me.
That's my tinnitus coverer. I play that so I don't hear the tinnitus.
Well, this tinnitus thing is a thing. And there's times that I have it likewise because I have a little bit of high frequency noise damage in my left ear. And I think it was from a lot of those years doing stone masonry work where I was using grinders and things. And you're getting up and down and you're not always got your headphones on. And it's something very important to take care of your ears, especially using equipment. But every now and then it'll start ringing on me. It's just got that ring. And other times it's not too bad. But I understand that it's a pretty common issue with a lot of folks.
Yeah. Rock stars in particular. So think
Yeah,
of me
band.
as a rock star and not someone that drills holes into rocks.
Oh, a rock star with speakers, monitors, or were you referring to me being a rock star, putting rock on the wall and making fireplaces? Because that's a rock star.
That's the one I was going for. Yeah.
Oh, me too. It's so good to talk to you again, Barry. I'm so glad that you're getting better. We've been super busy over the last few months just due to the Kickstarter finishing up and the late pledge manager launching, and then running right away to the UK Games Expo in Birmingham, England, and then getting home and not very there long after going to Dice Tower Con East and coming home, doing a little quick camping trip and sitting in the office, catching up on everything. It's been a whirlwind, but it's been exciting. And we're going to talk about our Babble topic at the end of the show here, where we're going to actually talk about some of the conventions. That's what we call this, Foundations of Conventions, and talk about our experiences, different things like that, and upcoming shows, things of that nature. And in this show, we wanted to talk a little bit about our sponsor. This was not particularly designed to do just a sponsorship spot. I haven't talked to Robert and Arcane Wonders about this. They've been so gracious to sponsor our show all these years, and I just full disclosure and disclaimer, I love Arcane Wonders. It's not like every game of theirs has been my favorite or anything like that, but I am so impressed with the quality, the commitment to excellence, and the amazing titles that they've come out with. They're honestly some of my favorite games in my collection. Sheriff of Nottingham. I love Royals. So many amazing games. And today we're going to actually do a deep dive review of the game Foundations of Rome by Emerson Matsuuchi. I've had the opportunity to play this game many, many times, and we're going to share some experiences, some thoughts, some good and some bad, mostly good from my viewpoint. Barry has also made a full review that you can check out on his channel called Board Games Everybody Should. But this game was one of the hit games at Dice Tower East. It was everywhere, and you could hardly find it in the board game library because it was always checked out, and they sold out of all of the product that they had there. So with that, we're going to go into our review of Foundations of Rome.
Yes.
So Barry, we both have had experiences playing this game. I've played this game at 3-player about 5 times, and I've played it at 4-player a couple of times. I have not played the solo, and I have played the co-op version, and I have not played a 2-player game. How many different ways have you played this?
Well, I've logged 4 plays. I have played 2-player twice and 4-player twice.
Okay, awesome.
And all with the base game.
Do you want to give a quick rules overview of the game, and then we can kind of get into our thoughts? And I have one of the games here, so I can actually pull out some of the components and let you take a look at some of the things when we talk about production value and those type of things.
Okay, a rules overview. Basically, every player is given X amount of money, and they are given X amount of cards. Each card has a coordinates on it. So B4, think battleships, B4, A7, and this corresponds to the board. And you will place your starting so-called workers on these spaces. And these are pieces of land that you own. And during the course of the game, you're going to be able to buy more from a market of other cards which come out. And later on, if you wish to, you can, instead of buying another piece of land, you can actually build on some of the land that you have. And if you've got several areas of land next to each other, you can create bigger buildings. These buildings come in 3 different forms, and I should have got the rules out to verify their names. But
I've got the rules here, so we can talk about that.
Nurse buildings, there's
We have
civilian.
we have citizen buildings. We have our commercial buildings that create civic, but we also have our civic buildings.
Yeah, and they all do their different things. The civic buildings give you points for being next to other buildings with corresponding things. The other buildings, this is so good. The economy buildings give you money.
The commercial buildings.
The commercial buildings. And then you have the others, which give you populace. And at the end of every era, and there's 3 years in the game, you're going to recuperate some of this, some points from having the greatest populace in the game. So there's different ways of scoring from either the civic buildings, which are quite important, and they do become very important at the end of the game. And then, as I said, the populous buildings where you house all your people.
Yeah, the residential buildings.
Yeah, the commerce buildings just bring you in money so you can buy more land.
And they give you some additional victory points at each of the 3 eras. If you certain commercial buildings that you take off may give you 3 victory points or 5 victory points at the end of the game when that's actually scored, and in between the eras. Continue.
Yeah. And so the game will play for 3 hours, as I said, and you've basically split this deck of cards into 3 piles. And when a pile runs out, you wait until all the cards have been brought up, which will trigger the end of round scoring, and then you'll score, as I said, for your populace, your commercial buildings, if they have victory points, and any civic buildings that have points. And then the game continues for 3 times. And after the 3rd round, there's an extra scoring benefit, which Burky's going to explain because I've forgotten what it is. It's been so long since I've played this game. It was like,
really?
I got it, and then I played it like about 4 times in 2 weeks. It was like, oh, friends around, do you want to play this game? And so I taught it 4 times and played it 4 times. It's been
well, isn't that the way it is with so many games now? You have to refresh yourself on some of these things. The end of game scoring really has a lot to do with where you are at on the residential track. It's a beautiful little board that has little punch outs that your cubes sit on. And after each era, because you have era 1, 2, and 3, after you score where you are at on that residential track. On the first era, whoever's in first place, say that they have 6 populace in their residential buildings. The leader of that is going to get 4 bonus points to score for that era. In the second era, they're going to get the one that's in first place is going to get 7 points. In the third era, the winner that has the most population is actually going to get 10 points. Well, this is a big deal. There is a little bit of a catch-up mechanic in that, and there's a couple variants of this as well, but in that the second place person actually gets to claim the points, not the bonus points, but the residential point value to their total. So the people that are behind second and third and so forth get to move up to the next opponent.
Yeah, I think the other thing is instead of collecting money on the end round, you actually collect points instead. So
you collect the victory points on your player board. And we're going to talk about these components because what's so cool, in my opinion, about this game is this board is really amazing when you're taking your buildings and actually putting them on the lot that you have purchased or kind of in that auction type of style, not an actual auction, but where you're purchasing them. When you put that building there, that leaves a space on the board that has graphics underneath it that gives you an indication of how many coins you're going to collect and or how many victory points you're going to collect at the end of those eras and at the end of the game.
And that's basically the game. It's very, very, very simple. You're either buying land or building stuff on the land. And you just keep playing until you've run out of money or you've run out of land. And the winner is the one with the highest points. It's as simple as that. And I think that's part of the enjoyment about the game. It's so easy to slip into and teach non-gamers as well as gamers. Although the gamers will probably go at the beginning, there's not really much of a game here. But then at midway through the second era to the third era, that's when the game really kicks in, because it isn't just a case of buying land and just go, oh, I'll have this, I'm going to have that. You've got the choice of like being a nasty person and buying land which is next to someone else's, like they've got 3 in an L shape, and if they get this 4th one, they got a square, which means that they can build one of the big square buildings and give them lots of points or lots of money or lots of populace. So you can play nastily, but you can also just play in your corner. But as I said, where was I going? At the beginning, it seems quite simple and no point to the game. But as this land gets acquired and the spaces become thin, there's this push and pull between what you should be building and where you should be building it, because not everything is as clear as day. You could build a set of residential buildings which give you lots of people, which put you up on the track. But someone might have a space next to yours and they build a civic building, which would give them loads of points for all the buildings which are next to it that are residential. So if you've put a 6 and a 4 residential building together and someone builds a little building, a little civic building in between, they get 10 points by being attached to those. And if anyone else builds next to that as well with these population buildings, they're going to skyrocket their score. And it's not a case of being up the top of the track of the population track. It's a case of strategically placing. And that's where the game becomes slower. It's very, very fast. Oh, I'm going to buy that land. I'm going to buy that land. I'm going to build there. I'm going to build. Second round, it slows down. Third round, it comes to a dredge as people start to think. And that's when the gamers go, I see the game here now.
And I totally 100% agree with you. The mechanics of the game are very simple, very Ticket to Ride-ish. I mean, you literally are doing 3 things. You're purchasing a lot from the deed board where you've got those cards set up, and they're going to go from 2 sesterce coins all the way up to 8 coins. But as one of those is taken, they all move down. And I love that mechanic because it's giving you that option. It's a little bit like Concordia, for instance, when the Senator track and the cards move down and they get cheaper. So there's this tension of when to buy it. When should I overspend because I really want that deed? So you're going to make the deeds. The second thing that you can do is you can actually build on one of the spaces that you've already purchased, or you can gain 5 sesterce and any commercial buildings that give you income. And coins, income, sesterce is very important in the game. I think Barry Seidel is my good friend. He's from Fergus Falls, but he's down in South Carolina. And he's made a comment here that it was great and love the components. Civic buildings are very key and strategic. Now, I'll give you a little bit of background. Barry and I go back a long ways, but typically these type of city building games aren't his favorite. And yet, as we played this game, because it was so simple at the beginning, you think, like you're saying, okay, this is just a simple family weight game. Well, yes. However, just like you said, once you get in the second round, all of a sudden that transition of upgrading maybe those commercial buildings that were getting you income that now are transitioning into population and or starting to transition into civic buildings, which give you the combination points. All of a sudden the puzzle kicks in and it becomes very exciting to know which cards, which deeds are going to come available and that are going to allow you to perhaps get some of the particular civic buildings. And when you say that, there's a variety of strategies, you might go, well, I want this deed, but I'm going to take this one because if I don't, the other player is going to be able to place his 4-spot building and get, 10 population. So there's a little bit of that watching. And yet I think everybody's doing it kind of simultaneously. So it doesn't feel as take that, if you know what I mean. It doesn't feel overly mean. It feels competitive. We're all the tension of, well, you can get it. If you got the money, you could get it. But I'm going to wait. And then, he took it. Oh, he sunk my battleship. And I love that tension in the game. And one thing that I was going to comment when you were talking about this game has elements. Emerson Matsuuchi is the designer, and I personally think he's brilliant. I love him as a person, as a designer. Century Spice Road. He's done so many amazing games. But when this was designed, it had the simplicity factor, but it has elements. It has a little bit of that game acquire type of feel. It doesn't have the economy track like that, but it has more of a city building type of feel, like Suburbia, for instance, where you're placing that airport next to this to get that and not have negative points. Some of that, the game, how do you feel that when you get into the third round, how do you feel that the game plays? What is your excitement level when you get to that third era?
My excitement level of the third era is the fact that I don't have to refresh the market so often. That's one of the drags of the game. The first round, the market, the cards, the land is being bought up. Every person is like, oh, I'll buy that card. And so you've got to like, slide it down and then put out a new card. And before you have a chance to think and have a look at the cards yourself, you're just constantly doing this. And it's like, so if there's one player, that's one kind of little annoyance. But when it gets to the third round, it slows down and then you have chance to think. Which I think is very important, judging where you've built buildings, what buildings you have left, what buildings you can replace, because that's the other interesting element about the game. If you can't replace buildings that you've already built, as long as the building that you replace it with is 1 square bigger. And so you may have like a 1 square little bakery down there. And then you might go, oh, you know what? I'm going to replace that with a 3 square population building. But you can't never go backwards. You can never put a small building on top of another small building. So I couldn't replace that one bakery with a civic building, which is 1 square. I'd have to
upgrade one larger.
Yeah. And the good thing is you get to then reuse these buildings later on in the game. So you can strategically plan for that as well. It's like, okay, I've got this one plot of land which is surrounded by all these other players. I need a building that size, and I've used my 6 or 8 so buildings which are only 1 square. So yeah, I'm going to do that, put that there because that's going to give me lots of points. So the third era is the most interesting one. The first two are like the preparation. It's like yeah,
it's very strategic. It's still strategic, but it's faster paced and little less thinky, right?
I don't know, because I'm always the one doing the market. I'm always the one replacing the card, so I don't have a chance to think. Even with 4 players, it's like, okay, I'll take that card. Okay, shift down. You're gonna take that card. Okay, I'll shift.
Hey, I got an answer to that. You know how you fix that? Just have somebody else do it. Hey, would you move these down? You're sitting next to it.
Yeah.
Problem solved.
Yeah. I'm always the one sat next to it, though. That's the problem. It's like,
there's a way you can fix that. Put it by somebody else.
Yeah. But when your table is only X big and your game is Y big. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. I'll get beside the point there. But yeah, strategic wise, there's enough there to keep you ticking over, and you can be devious as you like, moving buildings around. As I said, not moving them around, putting them on legs or stuff, but destroying a smaller building to replace it with a bigger building, very much like New York. And going back to the rule that I missed, which Burky just reminded me, which is kind of like passing and then collecting money from all your buildings, which your commercial buildings. That was the third action that you can do. That's, again, another strategy, is when to pass, which was a problem for me, because it was always like I'd spend all my money and then a card that I want or a bit of land that I want would come out, and it's like, I got no money, I can't buy that. And then someone else would snap it up before I had a chance to, because you're basically passing a turn to collect money, and then when it gets back to you, that's 2 turns basically that are gone.
Yeah, and that really speaks to the strategy of the game, for you to strategically plan your income by looking forward a little bit on the track. And that's where that tension, I think, of the deed track goes, okay, well, there's a card there that's $8. I can't afford that right now, or I don't want to spend that much. But do I have enough time to collect more income and buy it cheaper, or is somebody else going to scarf it up? And so there's different strategies. Sometimes people play a lot of commercial buildings in the first round right away and immediately start jumping in and collecting sesterce so that they can have run of the board, so to speak. But it doesn't last forever because money's tight.
Yeah. Oh, is it? That's the question.
Well, I've always found that with the plays we've had anyway, we generally don't wait for it to get down to the $2. I tend to be pretty frugal, so I tend to want the best buy.
Yeah.
But in our game group, it seems like a lot of times they're collecting a lot of money and jumping and buying it ahead of time because they want to make sure they get it and they think the value is there. Yeah. I don't play it that way as much, but it seemed like money was always tight because of that.
Yeah, I thought you were referring to the fact that there's only X amount of money in the game, which is not the case. If that's one thing that I've found is I had a player who was constantly banking and collecting money, and then there was no money left. And then we thought, well, wait a minute, what happens if there's no more money left in the bank? Does everyone else have to perform another action? But unfortunately, it's missing from the rules that there's an infinite amount of money. So you just go and collect some money from another game and use that as well. So if you're thinking about using that as a strategy, it doesn't work. Well, it does work because then you've got this load of money that you can spend turn after turn after turn just buying cards. But I just thought I'd point out there's a little rule missing from the manual.
We haven't talked about the production value yet or the expansions. The game was produced in a way through Kickstarter, and there's several different expansions that come in this game. There are some additional mini expansions, but before I go into that, one of the big expansions that comes with this game, and I'm going to pull out this here is the box. Now, behind me, you see the cover for the box that sits over this. This is super heavy-duty cardboard. This isn't your normal cardboard box. All of these names that you see on top of here are all the people who pledged at a certain level, and their names are actually written on this. Game Toppers has a spot because I pledged for this personally as well. And it looks like we've got Jesse Shaky. Hey, buddy. I like the game very much, but I do not like the price. I do not like to be negative, but that's a big thing for me. Luckily, I don't need to buy. I will play anytime when asked. Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about production value, cost, all of those things here in a little bit.
Yeah, so hold on, Jesse. Hold on.
Yeah, hang on to that thought because we're going to come back to that. This here is the Monuments expansion. And they have these really fantastic little game trays with a plastic cover that comes off. And then, for instance, this here building, I don't know if you can pick that up tight or not.
It's too small. They need to make bigger minis so you can hold them up.
Look at this thing. Look at,
It's as big as your
hand. It's crazy. It's as big as my hand. They get huge hands. Believe me when I say it. Huge hands.
When I saw them, the guy had tears in his eyes.
Look at these miniatures. I just feel like I'm not doing a good job of showing these in the pictures.
No, I'll show the pictures here. It'll be easier.
I have the Emperor's Pledge, which is the sun drop, which actually has a little wash. But this here, going back to the camera for a sec.
Yep.
This here whole tray is full of these monuments. Now, what's really neat about these monuments as well, I'm going to just set this one aside for right now. I want to talk about the rule book in a few moments, but this rule book, in fact, maybe I'm going to stay with me for a second on the monuments. Barry, when you read this rule book, how did you feel about the rule book?
It was very good. It was laid out nicely, easy to find. So if you want to check something, you can just quickly find it and there's plenty of pictorial descriptions of everything. It's nicely laid out. It's clear. It's precise. It's missing one little rule, but anyway,
I mean, look at this.
that's how rule books should be created. It tells you where everything is. It tells you where everything goes, which is again what you need for a game like this with lots of components, which is missing from a lot of games. You know, I'm looking at you, Fantasy Flight, and you, other people, but it's perfect. It's a perfect rule book.
I mean, you look at this here, the monuments page. It goes into each of the monuments: the Pantheon, the Forum Romanum, Circus Maximus, Temple of Vulcan, Temple of Minerva, Temple of Wonders, Temple of Mars, the Lighthouse, Watchtower. I mean, when I'm playing this game, I just can't get enough of the history of each of these monuments and the detail that is in them. If you continue in the rule book, there's a complete picture and description of each one in here. I hate rule books. I hate rule books. I love this rule book. I mean, I was able to read this thing like nothing. I can reference it so quickly. And I've found very little things that were not covered well in the rules. And this really is a testament to the amount of detail that went into creating this. Other thing that I want to show you quickly on the player board, and this here is going back to production value. These player boards have a plastic cover as well, so that they sit in your tray, and this is a 5-player version. But you'll notice here we have all of those components. This here is a 4-space unit. They have little indents, almost like a punched out version, so that you can see the text that is underneath this for quick reference and making sure that you're scoring. There's also little mini markers for the monuments. So your monuments expansion will show that you have ownership of it. And then these are just beautiful little tokens. The artwork that's inside of this, and the fact that each player has their own board, just like this. All right, I'm going to set this back. I just moved it.
Rick Ortloff said he's nearly finished painting all of his. He's got 5 buildings left to do. Whoa. Nice one, Rick.
Wow. Who did that?
Rick Ortloff.
Oh, Rick, how are you? Rick says,
"Hello."
Coins at the tiebreaker. Go ahead and put that up.
Yeah. The thing that's missing from the rule book is
big thing missing in the rule book. Go ahead.
Yeah, the big thing missing from the rule book is that coins are a tiebreaker at the end of game scoring. Otherwise, it's good, easy to read rule book. So there's 2 things missing.
2 things missing. This here also is your main player board, your punch-out board. All of that is in here. And all of the expansions that come with this game, which creates, in my opinion, an awful lot of variability. I want to talk about a couple of these expansions, but we just talked about the monuments. These monuments, there's a certain amount of them that will come out depending on the amount of players that are in the game. It's 2 more than the amount of players, and anybody has access to them. So sometimes it's kind of a race to get those and to meet the condition of that monument. There's the first player marker also. This is a gorgeous first player marker. I use it when we play Concordia also because it's so gorgeous.
Yeah.
The monuments, I personally feel like it's almost a must play. I love them. The base game is just fine, but I love having those options and that variability, so that every game you play is slightly different, because you basically take these monument cards right here, and these monument cards, you're going to randomly pick out the number that you need. And these monument cards, I don't know if you can see these here, but they're going to come out, and the Temple of a Vulcan. You've got the Pantheon. The Temple of Minerva gives you 2+ population, plus you get population per other building. The Pantheon is a commercial building that's going to give you 3 victory points next to a commercial building, or it's a civic building, excuse me. Temple of Vulcan. I mean, all of these are so cool that just add a little extra premium dynamic to the game's scoring. And so there's advantages to getting them, which is really cool. I'm going to set this down here so it's a little out of the way. This is a big honking box, man. You got to do a little weightlifting to do it. Let's talk about the existing content. Did you have any other comments about the commercial or about the monuments, Barry?
No, because I haven't played any of the expansions yet. I read the rules for them, and as I said, I've taught it 4 times, 4 groups. So I thought just stick to the basic game just in case. And it gave me a good understanding of the game. So next time I play with the wife or my friend Guillaume, it will be monuments and maybe some of the kind of like starting the player powers. I think there was as well.
Well, there's a version of the game called The Will of the Council. We played this one time. We were playing with Barry, in fact, and he loves co-op games. He made a comment earlier that he loves co-op games, but he preferred the competitive game in this. We played The Will of the Council. I think we may have missed something because it was very simple. We didn't play on the extra hard level, but it still seemed pretty simple as our group. And so I thought it was fun, but it seemed a little bit too easy to beat. And so we probably have to revisit that a little bit more, make sure we have a rules clarification on a couple things there. But that's one option. You can play this game co-op. The next thing is a game where you add the module called Trading and Stealing. Trading and Stealing gives you these little favor tokens that are either 2 or 4 points. And if you trade, or if you're going to steal from somebody, steal their deed, you have to give them compensation for it. So stealing is a take that mechanism that a lot of people don't care for. However, in this game, you're getting compensation for it. In one game, Josiah just had a strategy of letting people steal his stuff, basically, and collecting all of these components. You only can do it a couple times because you only have 2 of these, and then they can flip over and all that. I thought the Trading and Stealing module was a good one. It's just not my preferred style of play because I'm trying to plan something out, and then when someone wrecks it, that frustrates me. And yet, in this version, it wasn't so bad because you were compensated for it, and those victory points were pretty valuable. So the trade-off, I think it was play tested well so that it makes sense. Player roles, these are kind of cool.
Yeah, that's what
Okay, did you play with these?
No, I haven't played with
You didn't play with any of those. Oh, I think you'll like these. Each player is going to get 2 of these to start, and they're going to be able to take a look at them. Like here, one of the player abilities is Fortunate. You start the game with an additional 5 sesterce or silver. Efficient. Each of your +2 commercial buildings provide 1 extra silver. Well, if you can get a +2 building on the board right away where you're getting an extra silver, extra 2 silver, then you get an extra one. The early era, you could really gain some silver for this particular ability. There's so many of them that are wonderful. They're all great, and you get your choice of 2 of them. So everybody, I think, has a good opportunity to get something that's kind of cool, doesn't overpower the game. And we didn't find anyone that felt overpowered anyway. I don't know if we played with every combination or not, but it was always pretty even. So that's the player roles. Cool. Then there's these objective cards. The objective cards, these allow you, you can do this 2-way. You can have them as a hidden objective where each person has their own, and you get a pair of cards. You can take a look at them, and then that's an end game scoring. They're generally worth about 4 to 8 points. They allow you to like this one here is the fewest size number 4 buildings. An illegal Garritarian. It's worth 8 victory points. So if you have the fewest size number 4 buildings, you're going to get 8 points. So you can have that as a private objective for each player, or you can have 3 of these objectives setting face up that are a general objective for everybody, and everybody can gain those points. Of course, there's rules depending on the objectives. It might say first place gets this, and then there's some tiebreaker rules if 2 people tie and blah, blah, blah. These are pretty cool. I like the objectives. It's easy to implement, and in my opinion, doesn't add that much complexity where it makes it AP or anything like that. The next thing that they have is called the invocations. And this, you get your senator up on the board. He's going to invocate. He's going to say some things. This is a very interesting mechanic. These get added to the era deck. A certain number of them go into the era deck. So rather than it being a property deed, you might be able to get one of these particular cards. You have to pay for it, just like a deed. That's pretty cool. So everybody has the opportunity to get it. Sometimes people want that deed more than they want this ability, but then when somebody else gets the ability, they don't like the fact that someone got that ability. But everybody has the opportunity to get it. We only played with this twice. I have to, this is one beef I have with this module. I think you can probably tell that I really enjoy Foundations of Rome. But there was a couple cards in here that were absolutely brutal. One of them was, if you have this card, nobody can take these 2 particular monuments.
Okay.
Well, that felt really bad. There was one card in here, and I'm not going to take the time to read each one. I didn't grab the ones that I didn't like. There was some of them that I thought were kind of neutral and good for someone. They're paying for it. They're spending a turn to buy it. They should have the value of it. But there were a couple of the cards that were so brutal. One of them allowed, we were playing with the goals, the objectives, and we were playing it as private objectives. And this card lets somebody change private objectives from 2 people at will. So everything you have been building for 3 areas, you could use this card and you could change the objective. And I was like, no, you're not doing that. Well, who bought it? Guess who bought it? Josiah bought it. Josiah bought it. I said, you're not going to play that on me, are you? You're going to play that on me? And his argument on the whole thing was, hey, you could have bought it. I said, yep, that's true. His other argument was, more than likely, you're going to be able to get the other objective. It probably isn't going to account for anything. Well, in the long and short of it, that didn't affect the other player, but it did affect me, and I lost those 8 victory points. That was the difference, I think, for me coming in second by just a point or so. It wasn't a win or lose condition, but it was close. Personally, I hate that in games. That's just too mean and too, after you're that involved in a game for something that you just can't even control, except the fact that you could have bought it, and then you would have had to have been the jerk to play it. And I don't even like playing those cards myself, buying it and then doing that to someone else. It just doesn't feel good to me. Some people love that style of game. They like to stick it to you, and but I don't like that.
No, it can be annoying, especially if it's your best friend or your son, in your case.
Well, I didn't lose my temper over anything like that. I just went, hold it. That's not right. They can't do that.
Yeah.
It was like, that's one of those game mechanic Engelstein topics about how games make you feel.
Yeah. But
so
there's a little bit of take that in the game that way.
Yeah, there's a little take that, because anyone can take a property and all that. But for some reason, now Joseph and Josiah didn't really bother them. It bothered me, so I'm making it a point just so that if you don't have to play with this. I mean, this is just a module, And the truth is, most of the cards are really good. So you can just, those ones that feel a little bit too nasty, just pull them out.
Remove them.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. And that's exactly the way I think I would like to play with them. I'm just going to take out a couple of those because it does make things interesting.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, there's all this variability.
Yeah. I mean, I did read quite a few of the cards. I haven't played with them. And even while reading them, I thought, wait a minute, this seems a bit too powerful. Or this seems too nasty. And I was like, okay, maybe later on I'll play with it and see if it is that powerful or that over nastiness is in there. But again, as I said, from reading the cards before playing, I had the impression that some of them were a bit. Yeah, and again, some of them can be comboed as well. That's the other fear, is if you can combo one with another and just become an unstoppable force. I mean, because you said about that was one of the things that I read was the character, you play a power at the beginning of the games. You start with 5 sisters more than everyone else. But then there was another power, which is like at every turn you can do this. And it's like, how did they balance that?
Well, you've got
a power which you can use every turn, and then you got a power which you just use at the beginning of the game. And it's like, how? But I'm curious to test myself. I haven't played with the expansions, to clarify again, so I don't know if it is overbearingly nasty or overbearingly unbalanced. But I got that impression just by reading.
We've played it enough that I didn't feel that imbalance at all. They all seemed reasonable. They give you a little head start, that one particular one, but then going forward, it didn't. And so it did give you a bit of advantage in the beginning, and yet it balanced out where the other people, I found that the game overall generally is fairly tight. Our scores have been reasonably tight. It hasn't been a runaway leader type of scenario. I don't know, the elegance. I like that word for this game because it's simple. It's easy to teach. It's beautiful to look at. The table presence of this game is extremely elegant and gorgeous, but just the tactile feel of placing that there, but making a simple decision. But then as the game progresses, that it becomes that puzzle, and can I do this? The excitement level of trying to get these moments of everybody's standing up at the end looking, if I can get that one spot, I hope he doesn't get that card. And okay, what's that going to score? And you're trying to kind of math it in your head a little, and it can change. And so everybody's engaged. It doesn't feel like there's a lot of downtime between turns. It just keeps moving. And I mean, you can play this whole game in 45 minutes for experienced players.
Yeah. I would say better as 3 or more players. 2 players, it's okay, it works, but it's not as exciting as having more players at the table, more competition for each space. So yes, that one space is in between several other players. Who's going to buy it at 8 sisters? And then who's going to buy it maybe if it drops down to 6, and who's going to buy it at 7? And going back again, you have all this money, but you can't just keep buying cards because you're going to need these little worker tokens to place on the spaces to say that it's your land. And you've only got a finite amount of them, which is, I think, 8. So there are times when I was playing and I was like, oh, that's the one I want. That's the one I want. I couldn't buy it, not because it was either I couldn't buy it because I didn't have the money, or I couldn't buy it because I couldn't claim it because I didn't have a piece to put on the space on the main board. So as Burky was saying, it's a puzzle. You have to like pre-plan ahead and make sure that you have like this kind of safeguard in place of money and kind of reserved tokens to place onto the board before you build. And that's the fun of the game. One strategy that I feel works for winning, because this has helped me win every time, is always in the last round, go for population. For some reason, every time I've done it, I've won. I've not been leading the scoreboard, but that final bonus points of 7 bonus points plus whatever population you is just push me ahead of everyone by a couple of points. And
Or the 10 bonus points for the last era.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a strategy to have your residential buildings out there, and yet there's that push and pull of, do you have the right spaces to put that for
that Tetris kind of puzzle,
exactly
planning
and
ahead.
Yet
yeah.
I agree. I totally agree. I love that tension of whether you can do it or not, and it's almost like in Ticket to Ride. You want one track, but everybody's competing to go a certain destination. You never know if someone else is going to get it before you. It's kind of like that. When someone gets it before you, you don't like it, but there's still a lot of stuff going on, and it seems like there's always an opportunity to redeem it. Almost like, okay, that just means I didn't get this, but now I can put this two commercial building, civic building, and get an extra 6 points here this way.
But the one thing it does better than Ticket to Ride is it doesn't rely on the luck of the draw. Because in Ticket to Ride, you can draw 3 cards. Yeah.
Good point.
And sometimes the ones on the market are not the ones you want. And so you go for a blind draw. And you could spend turn after turn just blindly drawing useless cards. In this, there's none of that. It's what you see is what you can get. And so that's where you're planning and you're playing whether you should bank money, whether you should build something, ready to buy the spaces that you want so you can lay out all of your buildings, because you're not always going to be able to lay out all of your buildings.
And what's kind of cool about it, at the end of each of these eras, as soon as all of these deed cards are gone, that's the end of the era.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you don't want to take that last one because you want to place 2 buildings. So, okay, I'm going to prolong the era one more round to get this one, but then everybody else is going to maybe get something special.
Yeah.
So is it better for me to end the round? And you're trying to figure that out. And at the end of the game, am I far enough ahead? I need to get through these cards, but no, I hope nobody takes those cards.
Yeah.
Nobody really, because you really don't have an easy way to calculate everybody's score. It's not like
strategy.
No, correct. It's like you don't know exactly. Like Concordia, for instance, was one of our favorite games we played on Father's Day. You never really know what all the scores are going to be because of all those combos of which faction you have and all of that, I love that about this too. Josiah might be able to sit and look at everybody and count it all up in his head. I can't do that. So, but I love that about this game. So,
yeah.
So tell me what you feel about what if we were, going to rank this on a scale of 1 to 5, for instance. We really don't do this very often. No. But if you were going to rank this, what would you rank it and why?
Oh, it's for a game, because I normally do 2 categories. I do the sensation that you get, and then what you're getting for your money. And the sensation you get from this game is really good. This is a really enjoyable game, so it's easily a 5. The components as well are excellent. The only drawback from the product side of the view, is the price point, which we'll get to, is one of the things that Jesse was talking about earlier.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a little bit.
That I'd put it at 4. It was kind of like, I was debating whether to spend that much money on a board game, but I thought, I've heard you said so many good things about it, and I just went all in and backed it. So it's definitely a 5 on all grounds.
And again, we're big fans of Arcane Wonders. I personally know all of the people there, the owner Brian Pope really well, Robert Geislinger, the team there. That could maybe bias my opinion. I don't know. You have to decide for yourself. When we were doing our Kickstarter 3.5, one of the things that we did, if you could open up the screen for a second, if you'll notice over here, you see this large mat. This is the Roman themed mat. Our artist did this artwork, but we also worked out a deal with Arcane Wonders to provide that mat of our Game Toppers premium 3mm stitched edge mats with this artwork for their 3-foot by 5-foot mats. Well, when you're playing this game on that mat, this was just another additional environmental thing that added so much to the game. The Colossus, the Colosseum, and then when the Colosseum actually comes out in the game, we had concept art from their artists for our artists to create this. They loved our art so much that they actually used the art from our mat to use on the background of the board, so it actually matches almost, identically. It's gorgeous. The table presence of this game, the reason I mentioned this mat is when we did our 3.5 Kickstarter, we had a videographer come to our studio and do all the video of our last campaign. It was really fun. We created this Sherlock Holmes different feel, and yet we were focusing in on some of the items. And we use this in several of our shots. After that video shoot, we played that game with Stephanie and my daughter, Maddie. And this was her first time playing a bigger game like this. And she had so much fun playing it. About 2 years ago, we had a prototype of this game that was actually really good. It didn't have all the expansions and wasn't quite as top notch, but it was still pretty good. Arcane Wonders really goes out when they do stuff. And anyway, it was really cool. Maddie had played that with me then, and we loved it. That was just a base game. Well, we played it that night, and Maddie said to me, and Maddie's a gamer. She's played a lot of different games, and some heavier games, that are her favorites, like Orleans and Concordia and so forth. She goes, Dad, I think this is in the running for my top game of all time. She just loves this game. And every time I've played this game, I've liked it, with that one exception of where we were playing with that one Take That expansion. That kind of irritated me. Every time we've played with other people, they've loved it. We did question the co-op mode a little bit to find out if we were actually playing that right, because it seemed a little too simple, or that we needed to play it at a more advanced level. The table presence, and we can probably just talk about this right now. I'm going to give you my.
It doesn't take up as much room as you think it does. It does take up quite a bit of room, but the presence is really nice. It works. It just squeezes onto my homes with plenty of space to spare.
But we play ours on the Watson. So that yours is a 3-foot by 6-foot format. Mine is a 38 by 5 foot, 38 inches, and it's fantastic. We can play 5 players on it all day long.
Yeah,
3 by 5 you can play it on as well. Because of the componentry being so nice and neat in each of its spots, the way the player boards are, it's pretty cool.
We talk everything's on the player board as well. So as soon as you remove a playing piece from your player board to put onto the main board, it tells you what it is underneath, so you know where it goes, and it also tells you if it brings in currency, if it brings in points at the end of the round, or what power it does, which is fantastic. I can't praise the production of this game enough. As I said, I spent this money, and I was doubting if it was going to be worth that money. Definitely worth the money. But this is not going to be in everybody's budget. And
I think that's the thing. I had a discussion, because there's been a lot of talk about, is it worth it? Is this too much? Is it overproduced? You hear this term so often. When I saw the initial price, because it's like a $250 game. Okay, if you go and get all the expansions, I've got the Garden of Caesarea. Or Accessories, I think it is. Maybe I'm pronouncing that wrong.
Accessories.
Circes. Cyclades. Gardens of Cyclades. No, Circes. Anyway, the solo variant I have not played yet, because I don't like to play solo. Barry likes to play solo.
But
you don't want to. I wish I could play solo.
Stop it.
Anyway, there's a lot of stuff in this box. The quality of the trays, the quality of the double punch out boards, the quality of the miniature resins, the way the numbers pop in there, the card art, the rule book is it's just fantastic. The theme of this game, I think you could retheme this in a lot of different ways, and they may be gonna do that. But
that's what I was going to ask you, if you knew anything else, because after I did my review, Robert Geislinger got in touch with me. And he said, you're concerned about the price point. There is going to be next year another version of the game at a cheaper price point using tiles. And it will not be Foundations of Rome, but it will be Foundations of something. But it'll be a price, a good value, lower value price game, kind of Ticket to Ride, probably price. But everyone will then have the chance to play and experience this game, obviously not with the components, which I think is a fantastic thing, because this is a great game. This is a Ticket to Ride replacement, possibly, for many people, because it is so simple and yet so strategic and different in many aspects.
Well, I'm going to give you my rating. I'm rating it absolutely, the quality of the game, the gameplay, the enjoyment of the game. It's absolutely a 5. This game has moved up into my top 10 of all time. That's how much I like it. I'll never refuse a play of it. I love it. I don't get bored with it at all. I have a lot of games that I want to play, and I would eagerly want to play this anytime somebody wanted to play it.
And
in fact, I might recommend it.
It's easy to get out as well, because everything is in its trays. You just slide out a few things. You pop the board onto the table. You pop score track next to it. You get a deck of cards, and you're ready to go within minutes. And that's another
the attention to detail to make that happen, with all of these things fitting the way they fit, the amount of back and forth that they had to do to get all of these details right is immense. I'd like to also then, as far as the production quality, to me, it's a 5. It's off the hook. One of my favorite games. Blood Rage miniatures I love. This is right up there with it for me. Different themes, different mechanisms, of course, but as far as one of my favorite table presence games, this is absolutely one of them. I love tricking out my games. If you don't care about that stuff and you just care about game mechanics, well, you might want to wait down the road till there's a different. But I have the game New York 1910, is it?
Yep, 1901. I have too.
1901. I like that game a lot. But honestly, I didn't really like having just those little cardboard pieces that you put next to one another, and then, okay, this one might be a little bit thicker. Put that one on top of there. And yes, you can play the game, but I derive an incredible amount of enjoyment by having nice stuff on my table. Mm-hmm. I would much rather have my Stonemaier bits than having a little cardboard shit that looks like wood.
Yeah.
I want the wooden component. So for me, that's the way I'm always going to go. In my opinion, because the game is so good. If this game were just another one of those games that were kind of, it's okay, it's pretty good. Yeah, everybody, it's okay, take it or leave it. Then I wouldn't feel this way. I have a few of those games that I do feel were way overproduced, and I don't like the game that well. And while it's beautiful, I just don't like the game that much.
That doesn't help, does it? You just think, oh, I've invested in a nice looking game, but I don't want to play. Yeah. So to me, the enjoyment value of this and just the artistic value of it it's worth every nickel to me. Yeah. One thing I'll point out and just give extra kudos to Arcane Wonders. They didn't ask me to say this. They don't even know we were doing this review. So we just felt we both had played it enough that we should talk about it. And the game is, when they went to production, they had all the same problems that everybody else had with shipping, and the container prices going up from $5,000 to $25,000. They had 8 containers of product that they had to ship. They had to spend over $200,000
more than they asked their customers for. And honestly, that there wasn't enough in the campaign to cover all that. And this company made the commitment to take care of that for their customers. We did a very similar thing with ours we didn't go back to our customers and say, hey, this cost an arm and leg. We need you to give us more money.
Okay, we need you to give us a finger.
Yeah. and a foot. And your firstborn. No, I think I don't, this is another topic. I don't really feel the same way some people feel when the companies are saying, hey, we need some help. We can't cover this cost, because it's a real thing. And some companies can't even handle it. It could really hurt them. Nonetheless, we made that decision likewise. Hey, that was our risk. We're able to pay it. We didn't make as much money, but we're still okay. We're going to take care of this. And Arcane Wonders did the exact same thing. But this game, in my opinion, I think this is going to be an evergreen game. I think there's going to be more things happening. In fact, they've already talked about a new Kickstarter so that this can be reproduced. And there's some new expansions that are going to be available for this game. So, because they have a few copies left for Gen Con, and this game is not accessible. It's that good. They sold out at Dice Tower Con East. I mean, people were just going nuts. I'm here. I continue to see people reviewing it and going, "This is a really good game," And the only complaint is like, "Gosh, we wish we could have paid $70 instead of $250." Yeah,
but if you can pay $40 or $50 for a game which is the same quality as New York 1901, and it is a Foundations game, I think people are going to be happy as well. And I think that's one thing to look forward to. It resembles 1901, New York 1901, but there are many things which is slightly different. It does have a different feel. The competition is very, very tight. You haven't got so many spaces in New York, whereas in here you've got a whole big lot of squares and they disappear pretty quickly, whereas in New York you play differently. So
it's not a comparison to the game, but just kind of the components.
But if there was a component version much like New York, I'm sure it'll sell very well. As I said, it is worth it. It'll be worth it for $40 or $50. A smaller cardboard version, which should be.
I really feel that this game has a lot of legs and is definitely going to be an evergreen type of title for them. And I think they'll continue to build on its success with additional themes and different things that will be very exciting for the backers. And again, just a great game. I think we've talked this to death, so I think we can move on to our Babble topic real quick. We will thank our sponsor, Game Toppers, which is and we have our late pledge manager. If you missed the 3.5 Kickstarter, it is not too late. You still have another month or so to be able to get in on all of the stretch goals that we unlocked. 25 stretch goals were unlocked in the campaign. Incredible package deals on our top-selling Watson and Sherlock Holmes toppers, and the big Mycroft topper with the leg kits. And our dining covers are arriving in just a couple weeks, and we're going to be shipping all of those out to the original Kickstarter backers of the 3.0 campaign out to Europe. You can still get pledges in for Europe, Australia, United Kingdom, Canada. All that can still happen within a very short window here, within just a couple, 2 to 3 weeks. But over 25 stretch goals were unlocked. One of the goals was you got a free premium map with one of the packages. You also got these accessory bundles. There was like a $120 bundle free in addition to the discounted savings. And for all of our existing backers, there was an amazing deal where we did bundles of accessories so that we could provide an extra loyalty type of reward as a stretch goal to existing backers, where we discounted products that they normally might not have, or that they wanted to add on. Like we had 4 of the poker chip trays that were normally $20 each, where you got 4 of them for $39. So it's only $10 a piece. We sacrificed a lot of margin just because we wanted to do something really cool. So the Game Toppers Late Pledge Manager Kickstarter 3.5, you can go to our website, click Late Pledge now. You can see all of the products, all of the new mats, all of the accessory bundles, all of that, and take advantage of that pricing. As many of you know, prices have gone through the roof. Our shipping has gone through the roof. We did not adjust the shipping prices upward. We kept them where they were just for this mini campaign, and that's still in effect for about a month. Then we're going to modulate. We have to move the prices up to where they should be, and likewise. So if you want to take advantage of some great specials, some great deals, get your own game topper with it's just a topper or a full table now with our leg kits, you can do so for a limited time. So join us at GameToppersLLC.com. And with that,
this video was made possible with the help of Game Toppers. Upgrade your gaming experience with a Game Topper.
Baboom. So with that, we're going to move right on into our Babble topic.
And now it's time for the
Babble, 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 Burky and Badger's board game babble.
Hey, so we be babbling about foundations of conventions.
Conventions. Oh, yes. Do you remember them?
It's coming back to me.
It's coming back to you, slowly but surely. So, yes, life is returning to normal and conventions have started and people are opening up and going back. I was going to go to several conventions, but unfortunately, because of this ringing in my ears, which was quite painful and worrying for going on airplanes and traveling on boats, I did not go to the UK Expo, and I did not go to Paris Ludique, and I did not go to several other smaller conventions, which were around France, like Ludinor, Epinel, and there was one last week which I don't go to because it's too far south for me. But anyway, I didn't even go to Cannes this year. I was but someone I know did go to some conventions. Didn't you?
I did. I was really bummed to hear that you weren't able to go to the UK Games Expo, because we were going and I was super excited to spend some time with you. I haven't seen you in person for quite a while.
It's been for 4 years, nearly.
Yeah, it's really been 3 years since you were at BGG Con, when you came down here, and then when we were in Essen. So I think one thing that I wanted to just touch on quickly before I'll let you kind of ask me some questions and stuff, but one of the things that the first convention that I had been to since 2020 March, when the pandemic hit, I was at the Gamma Trade Show when all of this new information with the pandemic was just launching. The last day of that show, everybody was fleeing the country, to get on their planes before the planes were canceled and everything. Yeah. And then all of a sudden we had, basically a 2-year hiatus of not going to any shows or not going out, not having regular gaming groups. I saw a really significant downgrade in people's, I just lost the word, countenance, people's countenance, their online countenance, when I would talk with people, those that were in the gaming hobby I'm referring to, but also outside of the gaming hobby, just there was an overall down, there was just a lot of negativity that went around all of that, whether it was geopolitical, whether it was social, whether it was personal. There was all kinds of things factoring into this time. There was a very difficult time in our history. My first convention that I went to was Tantrum Con at the end of February.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell you, that was the first time that I had been reconnecting. And I'm a social person. I love being around people. I love meeting my backers, and I was feeling disconnected. Even though I was doing online things, even though we were doing a show, I was doing some Zoom things with other people, obviously working in the hobby, from our business. But there was something about just getting back and touching base with people. It was like we just started. It's like it didn't happen almost. In going to the UK Games Expo and going into Dice Tower Con, something interesting happened the day of going to Dice Tower East. Pete Shirey from CMON came up to me, and he hadn't been to a show for a while.
Yeah.
And he got up, and the guy was just so happy and cheerful. And he says, I thought this was going to be really bad. I didn't know how I would act and how I would feel. And I didn't know what it was going to be like. And is everybody going to be at arm's length, or did I lose all my friends? Just weird questions and apprehension. And he says, it's like we just started right from where we took off. Everybody, it's just awesome. He was so happy. And seeing the look on people's face after being to these shows and interacting once again with the hobby in the way that we used to, and starting to get back to at least a little bit of normality, man, it's really improved people's psyche.
And was there any restrictions at either of these shows, COVID related, masks and?
Dice Tower
distancing?
East, there was not. That was mask optional. We saw, I don't know, maybe 10% of the people that were wearing masks. And I know this is I don't want to get into a lot of the hot topic issues, because it seems to get a little bit unproductive sometimes what I see going on social media with it. But people have strong feelings about this. On both sides of the case. So some conventions are requiring masks and vaccinations and fully being boosted. Other ones are not. It's kind of it's a really interesting topic that I'm probably not feeling very qualified to address in public, because it's there's just a lot of strong emotions, and it's really not where I want to go with it.
Respect other people. I mean, if you don't want to wear a mask, don't wear a mask. If you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. Just have, respect. People wearing masks are doing it because they're concerned for their health. And again, masks do help stop the spread of germs. So if you do want the COVID con quite easily, just carry on with no mask. But I mean, I'm getting beside the point there, but everyone should just respect each other for their thoughts and feelings. If they feel they're invulnerable, let them be invulnerable. If they feel they are vulnerable, let them feel vulnerable. But just keep your friendship up, keep the games playing, have fun.
Bottom line is be kind. Treat other people like you want to be treated. And when I noticed people had masks, I didn't wear a mask. I wasn't worried about it. I feel safe, but others didn't, and I respect that. And so for me, when I noticed they had a mask, I would keep my distance. And I'm a hugger, so I just love to hug people, of course. Like to take pictures with people, stuff like that. But if I noticed that that's where their comfort level was, I would be very careful to respect that. So, and I don't believe anybody should be shamed either way. And I'm seeing a lot of shame being projected from people that believe you should wear a mask. And I'm also seeing people that think you shouldn't wear a mask shame others that are. And this divisive nature of it, I'm not involved in that. I mean,
I'm English, and in my culture, you do not wear a hat indoors, and you are disrespecting me, sir.
And I wore this on purpose to do that, actually, because at conventions you can always see Burky in his hat, so that's why I wore it today. But that's
always confused me. It's always confused me. Why do you need a hat indoors, or why do you need a hat while you're driving a car? It's not as if like the sun's staying out your eyes because there's a roof on the car. Anyway. So, I mean, the last convention I went to was Essen last year, where I was working, and that was all masks, all hand, and they had a lower turnout because they were advised not to have so many people in. But obviously, if things are getting better, you know, having the mask is not too much of a problem.
Yeah, there's a lot of people I know for people that work in a booth, it's really hard for them to project vocally. It's a issue. I respect the fact that different companies are wanting to try to present a safe environment. Whether they're doing it or not is questionable. You know, a lot of people
never tell, can we? The virus is invisible.
And it's a long topic that I don't really want to get into, but it's to me it's people that are masked at an event, but then everybody's out going out to eat and drinking all night long, and they're not wearing masks. It kind of defeats the purpose too. So I don't know if I buy it quite the way it's actually being implemented, but I don't know how you implement it much better anyway. Yeah. So to me, it's just be kind to people. Either way, I think there needs to, and this is really how I felt about the conventions. It was never an issue. We didn't have anybody complaining about it or running around. There was no problem. Everybody was just having a blast playing games with one another.
Yeah.
And I thought that was beautiful. There was about 1,600 people at Dice Tower Con, and there was over 26,000 people at the UK Games Expo. That's pre-pandemic levels. What?
Yeah,
yes.
You work in both of them. Okay.
Let's talk about the UK Games Expo for a sec.
Yeah. Because I was going to ask you if you played many games, but you might not have due to the fact that you were working. You hard slave.
Yes, at Dice Tower Con, we want to talk about some of the games that I played there. I think that would be kind of interesting for folks. There was a couple of things that happened. But at the UK Games Fair, Kelly Hughes, who's a professor at a college, economics professor in Alexandria, that's helped me for a lot of summer events. Love Kelly. Kelly's he's a workhorse. He's so good with people, loves our product, and is such a good teacher. He just loves communicating our product to people, and his enthusiasm is awesome. And anyway, we both went to the UK Games Expo, flew there, and we stayed in Birmingham right at the Hilton Metropole, which was a beautiful place. I fell in love, by the way, in England. And it was in the lounge in the morning with this amazing coffee machine. We had this love affair every morning where we would engage one another in the most intimate ways. My cup was underneath there and filling up cappuccinos 3 times and then filling my big mug. I love this machine. I thought, how do I get this machine? I don't know if my wife will be jealous of this machine.
I didn't see any pictures on Facebook of that.
I think I took a picture. Anyway, no, we had such a great time at the show. We had a 20-foot booth. We had 3 people. Chris was one of our backers from 3.0 that helped us in the booth all 3 days for a short period of time. Kelly and I arrived at the booth 9 a.m. and we literally would be talking from 9:10 as soon as they would filter through the hall till 5 o'clock, 5:30, nonstop. When Chris would come, we would quickly run to the bathroom and run back. Oftentimes, we were giving presentations to 3 sets of people at the same time because there was so many people in our booth, so much enthusiasm. We only had a few items there. Not all of my show kit arrived, but we made do. But we sold almost everything in the booth that we had there. A lot of people were able to late pledge, so they could late pledge, and you still can in the UK and in Europe and Australia. But the enthusiasm, people loved the product, and they were so excited to hear about what we were doing. It was just one thing after another. We had a 3-year sponsorship with the UK Games Expo back in 2020, where we provided 350 premium game mats that is dual logoed with the Game Toppers logo and the UK Games Expo Dragon logo.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Their whole boardroom open play area has a premium mat on every table.
Cool.
So people are playing. I posted pictures about this, but people love those mats. They kept coming over. Can we get some of those UK Games Expo mats? You know, they wanted to buy them. And anyway, super, super cool to have that sponsorship, 3-year sponsorship. We kind of traded it. But the problem was the pandemic hit and I hadn't been able to be there.
Mm.
So this was the first year. And I was so thrilled to be there. Overall, the convention was just really run well. The people were so friendly. The organizers were really great to work with. Richard Denning and so many of the other people that were Keith and I'm forgetting the other, not Vinny. Anyway, I'm forgetting. They were just great with the people around our booth were really wonderful to work with. Chris and Kelly did an amazing job. And we didn't have an opportunity to play any games at the show, but Kelly and I played in the VIP lounge one night afterwards. Usually you're fried by the end of the night, but we played a game of Unmatched from Restoration Games.
Okay.
It's a little two-player one-on-one type of thing. And we had a blast playing that. I was Sinbad and he was Merlin and King Arthur. And a super fun little game. And now there's all kinds of expansions for that game from Restoration Games. Really love that game as a quick 2-player, type of take back and forth type of game. So in essence, that was the UK Games Expo. We did take a couple extra days in the UK where we went to Warwick Castle.
Again,
we did go to work because you went with us a few years ago when Josiah and I went.
Yeah, beautiful place.
We had such a blast there. But what we didn't do when you were there is afterwards, it closes at 4:00. We went over to the little village of Warwick. And this is where St. Mary's Cathedral is. We climbed to the top of St. Mary's Cathedral. Oh, wow. My goodness. 80 steps, 12-inch steps.
Oh.
We got up right. You get up 2/3 of the way where the bells are ringing, and it says, if you're having breathing problems, please go back or push this button and we'll bring you assistance. Yeah. And we were feeling that. We were feeling like we were having cardiac.
When you said you climbed up the top of St. Mary's Church, I thought that you were parkouring or something, scaling the tiles and the
Well,
the
I should have done it that way.
Yeah. Okay.
It was like 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's one of those spiral stone things,
Yeah. Give
they
you
had
vertigo.
a great big rope that you could kind of hang on instead of a railing, which actually was a little better for gripping. But it was a deal. But we made it all the way to the top, and you could see the castle. You could see over the entire village of Warwick. We went to all these little cool pubs that they had, and we ate at several different places. We liked it so much. We were going to take a 1-day trip to London, but because of there was the Queen's Jubilee going on.
Yes.
So
at the same time.
It was. We took the subway train from Warwick, or the train, from Warwick back to Birmingham. That was interesting. We met this really interesting fellow that we talked about all the things because they were having the vote of confidence for the prime minister at the time too. So that was all the hubbub. And we just had the greatest talk with this guy. He actually worked in America for many years as a probation officer. We just had this awesome talk with him. We ended up deciding not to go to London because of the busyness, and we stayed another day just doing work. Mm-hmm. And we went to all these shops. We had high noon tea. We went to some of the famous tea houses that are there. We went kind of shopping in these different places, went to St. Mary's Cathedral and learned a lot about that and all these historical sites. A couple of these big gardens that are around the castle that was like, it was such an awesome day. We had so much fun just touring around that little town.
Cool.
And that was the UK Games Expo, and we had to get tested to come back to the United States. So we took our tests, and we were negative, and thankfully that all worked out good. And we came home; everybody was fine. We were only home a little bit, and then we're off to Dice Tower Con.
Yay! Non-stop.
Well, Dice Tower Con, cool. Down in Florida, 90 degrees. Humid as heck out there. I guess heck isn't humid, but
it's pretty close to hell. It's just around the corner.
It's around the corner. Heck is.
Yeah.
Just for the heck of it. So we're there, and it's at the Caribe Royale Hotel. Now, this is where it's been most of the years. There was one year where they did a little experiment, and I don't know that worked out as well, but this hotel is awesome. Oh. Nice rooms, $120 a night for the rate, which is a really good rate for these beautiful rooms. You're in these towers that are centrally located to the pool, the hot tubs. Every morning, I got my coffee, went down to the hot tub, sat in the hot tub, and I ain't coming out of that hot tub. Everything's soft, baby. I'm going to just loosen all up. I go sit on the chair, answer all my emails for about an hour, do all my work right from the pool.
I remember when we went to the UK Expo, there was a hot tub in the hotel, and you went a few times.
Oh, yeah. I'm in.
Yeah. Yeah, you didn't want to sit outside with me and smoke your cigar and drink your brandy.
No, that's an evening
going in the
thing.
hot tub.
That's an evening thing. The morning time is get in that hot tub, relax.
Okay.
And there, nobody shows up till 10 o'clock. It's like everybody's sleeping for some reason in Florida at 10 o'clock. And I'm up at 7 o'clock. I'm down there. I'm having at it.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful pool area. So I love that about this hotel. The convention vibe is very laid back. It's very family friendly, if you want to say that. There's a lot of families, but it's just kind of people getting together and a lot of open gaming. This year, they didn't do as many of the normal Dice Tower events. Like they usually would hold these, the Dice Tower Awards ceremony. They would do the Dice Tower Live. Well, this convention, they were just starting to get back into conventions, so I wanted to make sure that it ran well. Sharon Madden, who organizes it, along with Tom Vassell and the whole crew and all the volunteers, they just did a great job. There wasn't any hiccups that I even heard about. I didn't hear people complaining about anything. Getting the product there as a vendor is a little bit tricky using the fulfillment company that you have to use, which is kind of a pain. But generally, everything was great. We were one of the vendors. We had a few items there for our show kit that we sold out of right away. That was one observation. People were ready to buy stuff.
Yeah. I think that was the thing I noticed about Essen.
And that's what I heard at the UK Games Fair too, is there was kind of a pent up demand. Hey, we've been waiting to go to summer camp and spend our money at the canteen.
Yeah.
And so that was pretty cool. I think the vendors, Arcane Wonders, for instance, I know they had a record sales, Dice Tower sales, and realized in the past, Dice Tower Con was about 3,500 people. This show had about 1,600 people. We had two people. Kelly came with me again, and we had just some fantastic couples. Katrina and Anthony are backers of ours, and they helped us 2 days. And then Justin helped us for a 4-hour shift on Saturday. So we had plenty of help for a smaller convention. Mm-hmm. But honestly, we pretty much needed two people in the booth the whole time because there's that many people that came and wanted to talk.
Yeah.
One of the things that was such a big plus for me, I was almost overwhelmed by it. I took pictures with 45 people that were backers of Game Toppers. And that's just the one I took selfies with. I'm sure I didn't catch everybody. And there was other people I talked to that I forgot to take a picture, stuff like that.
Yeah, stuff like that happens.
These people gushed about Game Toppers. This isn't a commercial. I'm just telling you my experience. they just thank you, Burky, for making this product. I never thought I could afford a game table, and now we love our game table, and this is the best thing we've ever bought. I mean, people over and over would say that to me, and in one conversation, they would continue to thank you so much. I'm like, good grief, thank you. Who am I? Thank you for buying this product from us. Yours what made this happen. If we didn't have backers, we wouldn't have nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just so grateful that people like what we're doing, and it's upgraded their gaming experience and meant so much to them.
It does. It sits there, does nothing much in the moment, but when it does, Well,
once you play on a topper, I mean, it's like nothing else, and people can afford them, and they're high quality, and all of the thematic mats. And we had quite a few mats that we brought with just for demo's sake, and then we sold them so we wouldn't have to ship them home. And we sold all of them but 3. I mean, everybody just scarfed everything up right away, and it was just so fun.
And did you play anything there?
We got to play some games. Played with my good friend Trey Lennox and new good friends, Christy Stern and Caesar and Caitlin Caesar. His first name is Robert, but they call him Caesar. This guy's so funny. He just cracked me up. He's got this laugh that just it bellows, and when he laughs, the whole room hears it, and it's just fun. And I had him laughing quite a bit. Because it made me laugh to make him laugh. But we played a game called Margraves of Valeria. Margraves of Valeria. Now, you've got all these tables out there. We had one backer that was a secret Cabal member, found a listener, and they actually bought a Mycroft topper and brought it to the show with their secret Cabal mat. And they were playing these great big epic games. It was the coolest thing ever. But the tables there were pretty nice. And you can get 4 people around the table easily, 2 on each side. And this is Margraves of Valeria. I was at the VIP event that they had the first day. We were out at Planet Hollywood, and we're talking with Trey, and I told him that one of our favorite games was Concordia. And so anyway, he goes, "Oh, if you like Concordia, you'll love Margraves." Well, what's Margraves? Well, Margraves of Valeria, this game uses those similar mechanics of using your senator cards to play your actions and then being able to pick them up and replay again, but be able to acquire new cards that give you new actions. And each of those cards have a certain faction symbol on them, so that if you have a certain number of factions, you get to move up this economic track in a sense that gives you multipliers towards the amount of those faction cards. So you're trying to build fortresses in these different communities around the board, but you're also trying to kill off these monsters that give you all kinds of resources. But those resources will allow you to buy these cards and allow you to do this. And there's this push and pull back and forth mechanism. And it has more of a fantasy theme, your knights, your Margraves running around the board.
Well, it's Valeria. They're all fantasy.
It was great. We had a super fun time playing it. The first couple rounds, I was still trying to figure it out and not quite getting it. And then all of a sudden it started clicking. And then I thought I was going to there's a little set collection element to it too that you can do for scoring points, and a lot of different paths to victory. Ended up the last round, everything I did just worked, and I ended up winning by 2 points.
Cool.
Which was crazy because there was no way that I thought I was going to win that game.
Yeah. Anything else you played?
What?
Anything else that you played?
Yeah, I got to see BJ from Board Game Gumbo, such a good friend, love that guy. And we played a little mini World Series with 4 players of Baseball Highlights 2045.
Yeah.
And that was great because it was at Dice Tower Con that we generally would have these bigger tournaments. And this year we weren't able to do that, but so fun to play that. I also got to play with Christy and Caesar and his wife, Caitlin, Pillars of the Earth,
Ooh, nice.
which is one of my favorite worker placement games. It's a classic. It's one of the old Mayfair games. I love that game. I wish I had the 5th player expansion for it. I've been trying to find it. So if any of you know it and want to sell it, I would love to buy it.
Does it still hold up compared to other?
In my opinion,
placement?
absolutely. It's great. Every time we've played it, they both played it and loved it. It's not easy to find, but I guess Chrissy went home. She liked it so much. It was one of the games of the show for her, and she found a used copy on eBay, which was really cool. Ignacy Chevicek, from Portal Games. He comes over, and Ignacy and I are good friends, and his wife, Mary. I remember several years ago at Dice Tower Con, they were new to the United States, and they needed to go get groceries at Walmart. Never been to a Walmart, so I had my car. We go, and I take them there and spend about an hour helping them shop and all that kind of stuff, and got to know them. Well, I had given them some of my Burke's Happy Mouth signature spice. And of course, I had spices at the show and jerky. So I was running around handing Stephen Bonacore jerky, and everybody I was running around, that loved jerky and had great time connecting with them. I always hate mentioning all these names because I know I'm gonna forget somebody, and then that's no fun. But there were just so many great friends that I was able to reconnect with, and Lance was there with Gray Fox Games, and just a couple, and Julie Ahern, from was helping Greenbrier Games now, and she's actually moving on to another company or doing something else, I guess. But Robert from Arcane Wonders, and just all the team. Ryan Bruns is working now with Elf Games. Oh yeah, Elf Creek Games. We got to play the game Honey Buzz. Oh yeah, with them. Oh, I got to go back to my pillars. Ignacy Chevicek comes over. Yeah. Well, Chrissy, I said, oh, I got some spices for you, because Mary, she's vegetarian, but she loves our Happy Mouth spice. And I said, I got some stuff for you, Ignacy. Chrissy goes, I didn't know what to say. He's my favorite designer. And she was kind of locked up, So I go over to Ignacy. I said, I got some spices. I said, hey, but could you do me a favor? When you came over to the table, the couple we're playing with, they're really big fans of yours. Would you mind if I introduced you to them? So we go over. He's just a normal guy. He loves people, and of course. So we go over there, and I take pictures for them, and they get to chat a little bit. And it was one of these highlight moments for them that they got to meet one of their favorite designers and see that he's a real person, very kind-hearted, and it was awesome. And then we got to play Honey Buzz from Elf Creek Games. And what a cool little fun game. I got to play with one of the owners, Mike, and got to know him nicely. We went out to dinner one night to Fogo de Chao, my favorite Brazilian steakhouse, and him and Ryan Bruns and Kelly and I, and then we got to play this game. And what a cool, fun little game production. You're trying to have this efficient little honeycomb that gives you different actions when you fill them in. And you're trying to manage these different worker spots that basically allow you to get different actions, get more bees, and eventually get nectar, and try to fulfill these little cards. I didn't do very well, but it's a beautiful production, and it was a lot of fun. It's one I think I would like to add to the collection. I think Maddie would really enjoy this game. Okay. And we only had one extra afternoon that we stayed at the hotel and just kind of relaxed that Monday morning, and then we flew out and got home. And I was home for one day, and then family went camping. So it was kind of a whirlwind. But those were some of my experiences. I feel like I'm just talking the whole time here. I'm sorry. I don't mean to bore anybody, but try to give you a little bit of insight of what I felt. And one thing I'll mention just really quick, I was talking to Josiah yesterday. And I said, so have you noticed any difference about me? Or he made a comment about something. And I said, have you noticed a difference? And he says, oh yeah. He said, you are really energized. You seem like you are really fueled up. And I said, I think you're right. I probably didn't recognize how much I missed doing what I do, other than just doing the business side of the company.
Business.
A lot of the logistics of my company, they defuel me. They take all my energy. What excites me is being around the people and being the face of Game Toppers and interacting with them, and then actually being able to play games and have the friendships and develop new friendships. Man, my creativity just bursts open. And that's probably been a little bit stifled the last 2 years.
Yeah. And it's amazing how easily you slip back into you when you just smell something, you see something, you hear something, boom, and you're transported into another world. I'm the same at conventions. It's like I'm not me here, I'm me there, completely different from the me here. It's just this kind of trigger which affects your whatever it is, your not
psyche.
adrenaline. Yeah, your psyche,
Yeah.
but
Your adrenaline.
your endorphins.
Yep, you're right.
Yeah. And you just, it's like being pushed into the water, not being able to swim, but you can swim all of a sudden.
It's like you
reflex.
got right. It was like Pete was saying. It's like we just started back over. It was like you got right back on the bike, and here we are again.
Yeah.
And I felt a little bit more nervous. Not nervous is probably the right word, but out of rhythm at the UK Games Fair, because it took me a little while to get back into just greeting people, and I don't know, just a little bit of that, and then it wasn't very long that all of a sudden you got back in that rhythm.
Yeah.
Just being with people and interacting and answering questions and just acting more normal. What I mean?
Yeah. Even with a mask. I was surprised at Essen how easy it was just to slip back into being me, even with a mask, and my ears scratching and the sweat going back into your mouth. But
I shaved off my great big beard. It's a nightmare trying to have a beard with a mask. It really is difficult. You can't chew gum. You can't move without it getting all goofy, and then you're always touching it. Well, that defeats the whole point anyway. Yeah. So, excuse me. It was just really great getting back and seeing all of our friends, and just so grateful for all the backers too. Yeah. Just very heartwarming to be able to interact with the people again. So those are really meaningful moments. And that was my experience at convention. So I think we're going to see more of this now.
Yeah.
I think people are getting more comfortable. There's still some that are not comfortable. And honestly, I think if you're not comfortable, you shouldn't go. No. If it's going to cause anxiety, don't go. Yeah. And I think conventions, we've talked about con crud for years and years. And that's about where we're at with a lot of this now, I think. You can always get sick at a convention. And if that's a concern with your health, those kind of things, you're absolutely free to not do that. You don't have to feel compelled to do it. On the other hand, I think we're getting back to the way it was, where the variants that are out now are much less virulent. They're much more manageable. Risks are lower, let's put it that way.
And again, the other thing is just, wear your mask and wash your hands, carry some gel around with you, and just don't worry. nobody should be taking the mick out of you because you're looking after yourself. It's the same as like, did that guy have a bath in the past 2 days?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Take care of yourself, get good sleep, have good hydration, good nutrients, all the different vitamins that you can take that helps your immune system. All of those things are important factors. And you don't want to neglect those things.
No.
So.
And to be honest, I've been washing my hands for over 2 years and I haven't been ill at all. It's been great. Well, I had a bit of a runny nose, but I picked that up from the little one. But, clean hands. It's surprising that how much clean hands can affect your health as well. Yeah.
Well, we weathered all of those very well. My wife and I both had COVID last Christmas, and we had a couple days of not being too well, and then everything was fine. After about 5 days. So
yeah, I don't know if you can call that a win or a lose. Because I haven't had COVID, but you have. So have you won this game, or have I lost? Or have
I
you
don't
lost
know.
And I won?
I think it's great that you haven't had it, but I feel stronger because I have had it, so that's good too. It makes you stronger if you overcome it.
If it doesn't kill you, yeah.
Yeah, there's a song in there, right? Well, that essentially was my experience at conventions, and because of our fulfillment cycle, I'm not actually going to be at Gen Con. I want to, but it's just not working out, and I've had too much going on. But looking forward to going to BGG Con, and also looking forward to possibly going to PAX Unplugged. We'll see how that all plays out as well. So it's really great that the gaming community is coming back together, and I'm seeing an awful lot of positivity about these conventions, and people have similar sentiments. So that was our experience at conventions. I hope any of this was interesting or helpful. I don't know, maybe we're just rambling, but I guess that's why we call it the Babble, right?
Exactly. Who knows where it's going to go?
Well, I think we're going to get together and do another Fields of Evergreen, the Woods of Evergreen, where we talk about games in the past, and then have more Burky and Badger board game Babble going forward here. So where can people find us?
They can find us at YouTube, Burky and Badger Board Game Babble. They can find us on BGG, Board Game Geek, in our guild 2248, and they can also find us on your website, which is boardgametheatre.com, my website, boardgameseverybodyshould.com, and also on every kind of podcast streaming service. Of course, Burky and Badger. Very easy. You just type in Burky and it's like the only one there wherever you search.
And people, you can find this if you're unable to watch us live. You can watch the YouTube channel. And then Barry is going to produce an audio podcast that's professionally edited that goes up to our iTunes and Stitcher account. So you can listen to this at your leisure if you like. Yeah. We'd love to have you subscribe to our YouTube channel, Burky and Badger, and join us on Facebook and Twitter. And you'll find I usually post it on Board Game Theater and the Game Topper pages as well when we do stuff. So we hope this was enjoyable, and thank you so much for joining us. And with that, you can send us out.
Okay, ciao for now.
We're so glad we had this time together. And now it's time to go. It won't be long until we have another show. So keep us in mind, get online. Burky and Badger will be back in no time.